look in the mirror with you, and so glad. You can send me comments, but I don't let people be in my live video. I just have not been able to do it well technologically. So I'm so glad you're interested. And welcome to Friday Live. Today we are exploring something which is dear to my heart, which is how to support you actually achieve your goals. Now, goals have such a weird name, right? All it is your creative instinct. So let's take a breath, rub your hands together. Oh, and as you're rubbing your hands together, I want to see if you can find a little bit of a interest in your hands. Okay, so you've got a little bit of curiosity in the sensation of your hands. And then you can sort of modify the timing or the pressure, but your curiosity is there. That's the first important part about having a desire. A goal is simply a desire. It's not a should, it's not a have to, it's not a somebody else should, telling you what to do. So find the interest here in your hands and play with it. Oh, I'm so glad you love the Friday Lives. I love them too. I love getting a chance to interact and exchange, and that's why be sure to use the chat or the comment section, because that's how we get to communicate. So now, as you have your interest, hello, welcome. Oh, I'm glad it's relaxing. Yeah, there's a way of connecting to self. And what rubbing your hands does is you start to pay attention to you existing. That's really important. So you have to exist in order to have a desire. That's the first step in aligning with your goals. And if you want to find out more, I have an absolutely free gift for you, which is my online course, 3 days in a row. And if you can't make it, it will be recorded. And you do have to register. So go to the IG link and you'll see it there. It's called Best Year Ever. And if you can embody your curiosity and follow it, you're teaching yourself a wonderful skill set. And that's what we're going to explore today. So we're starting out with our hands just to bring attention to the idea that you actually exist. There is a you that can have dreams. There is a you that has curiosity. And there's also a you that's loaded with experiences that you can't follow your dreams. That's just life, right? Obstacles. And so often if there's a strong emotional attachment or imprint, it means it was very young. It could even have been existential when you were soul coming into body as an infant. And if there's an obstacle at that level that's hooked up with emotions, unprocessed emotions, you can bet you're going to default back to your protective mechanisms. Oh, you were having a panic before this and now you can think more clearly. Thank goodness. Yes, that's exactly what I want for you, is that you get to really have the ability to self-regulate. Because who wants to go around in panic? I had panic attacks before. Ugh, it was horrible. And often they're related to infant needs being not met. And I know a lot about that. It's my specialty to go to precognitive memory, whether I'm working with an adult who's got issues in their work or their relationship, or I'm working with a teenager, or I'm working with a child or a toddler. We go to the early stories, and we do it through play. So play, what does play have in common with goals? A lot. It has in common your curiosity. Now let's take this rubbing from our hands to our shoulders. And you can even squeeze. What squeezing does is it gives you even more ground in the body. So you want to squeeze particularly into the bones, the weight and pressure, and even across the joints. Hello, welcome. Because all of this has a lot to do with your goals. Because if you don't exist in your body, you will have wishful thinking, but no way to manifest. Now, some people will disagree with me. They'll say, well, I just do it all energetically. And more power to you if you can. But eventually, those deep body stories will want to resolve in order to heal. And I like to do it from the inside out, from the cellular nature to the ground, to the heavens, to the earth. And again, if you're just coming on, I'll remind you that in January 8th, 9th, and 10th, I'm having a free 3 days. You get me for 3 days in a row, and it will be recorded. How do you have your best year ever? Because I can tell you, I have seen people through my practice, my years, 40 years of experience, start to thrive. And I didn't always know what to do, but I certainly didn't give them advice. What I gave them is recognition that they exist and that they can actually do the satisfaction cycle of yield, push, reach, take hold, and pull. Because that is another very big thing about manifesting or following or actually achieving your goals. Now, if you don't know or you haven't heard, you're new to my community, the satisfaction cycle, I created a free PDF download. You can go to my website, you can click on join that free library, and you'll get it. It's right there for you to download. Because these actions in the material world where we live, we don't live in the just energetic world, and we certainly don't want to be so heavy with depression or hopelessness or apathy, because then we're carrying a burden. So now let's take a breath. So we found our hands. We found a little proprioception. Now we're going to occupy space. And I tell you, I'm so proud of one of my students in my adoption course that she really did a major healing. And I'm going to be checking in with her today. So if you're on, be ready for my call about being willing to exist or knowing she existed. And that happens when we use our mirror neurons. So right now, how many of you put it in the comments, you tend to self-attack? You'll get started on a project and oh my gosh, you will start having an obstacle and you will go into self-attack. Right, we want you to manifest, not just have it academically. We want it to be in your fingertips, your dreams and your goals. Self-attack is a way of motoring. I've been doing some very deep studies. I'm drawing and studying and pondering how we communicate internally and externally through our body tissue pathways, our neurology. And one of the things I've been thinking about is the issue a communication issue or is it a resource issue? So if you say, oh, you have lots of knowledge, you worked hard to get your academic knowledge, now it has to go into experiential practice. So I think that's a communication issue, that you're motoring into self-attack. Motoring means the movement aspect. We have sensory. Everybody try this. Wiggle your fingers and imagine, oh, you're getting a lot of sensation. That will come in from the periphery of the body to the core. It will also come from our special senses, sight, smell, hearing, taste, spatial. Sensory input comes in, and then it has to either go right into movement. So if it were a primitive reflex, it would not go up to the brain or up to higher centers for evaluation. It would just be sense. There's the sense, right? I'm touching my palm. You can try this. Sense motor. That is a very primitive reflex. It's called the grasp. Very important for your goals. So try it. Tickle your palm until you get, a little queebly in there, right? And then, notice your fingers will close on that sensation, on that stimulus. So the closing is the motoring. Motoring is the movement. Talking is movement. It's vibrating sound waves out into space. Movement is motoring. So we have to balance sensing and motoring. That's why if you just keep your dreams up in the sensory department or the idea department, you won't actually find out. Can you make it? Children always are constructing with their hands. They are building. They're getting their blocks out. They are making it happen. This is so, so important that you have the building blocks to set your dreams and your goals. So we've gotten sensory motor. We've gotten attention back into our body through rubbing our hands and exploring. Now, I'm going to really talk about this on my free seminar that starts on Sunday. It's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It will be recorded, and you do have to register. January 8th it starts, and the link is in my bio. So in this, there's a balance in our nervous system of our curiosity, right, and our manifesting. There's an intention, which is, I want to go for a baby. It's like, I see that toy. How do I go get it? How do I do it, right? How do I learn to inhabit my body so I can lift my head? How do I learn to roll over? Can you imagine the skill set a baby has in utero related to water? They can move, they can turn, ideally, if they're not stuck sideways. Some babies end up transverse, and that means they just can't change position to come head down and get out. And some babies get stuck with their legs up around their shoulders, and so they're coming out breech, which is butt first. Ideally, the baby is organized and moving, and as the space gets smaller, they condense into a little ball and with their head down. And then they progress through the birth canal, which is an obstacle, don't you think? Yeah. So you're going to find out more about that in my free seminar. These obstacles that happened before we could think. Because wouldn't it be incredible if this was your best year ever? Take a moment and ponder that. Take a breath, feel your body. Imagine a whole year where you were learning, not self-attacking, where you were willing to take risks. And the person I mentioned earlier in my healing adoption imprint, she took a big risk this week. She decided she was willing, with our support, to find out if she existed, not just to run away. That was so courageous. I am just still so moved by her courage. So you exist. Every one of you out there exists. Sometimes you might not remember that. But when pressure comes and we don't have our mirror neurons to let us know we exist as an infant, sometimes it's easy to get confused. Yeah. So here you are, imagining your best year ever. What would that even be like? Can you feel some joy? Or do you get afraid of that idea? Because this is a really, I used to teach body observation and assessment for the master's level somatic psychology at Naropa University. I was the director of body psychotherapy, and I taught a whole class on body observation and assessment. And maybe I'll teach that and put it into my educational system I have online. But right now, what we're learning is how to observe ourselves here with our hands. Then we went to our shoulders. And then we talked about self-attack thinking and motoring. And self-attack means the energy is going into thought, protective mechanism, instead of into action. And did you know I have a YouTube channel? You can actually get a lot of my information on there. I don't know if I've got a video up on self-attack thinking, but I talk about it all the time because it's an attempt at protection and an attempt to prove you exist. Because self-attack is energy to the self. So a self has to exist in order to attack. Now the attack ideally is, giving you some protection. But if it's so chaotic, you have to keep the fight response going, which is the attack side, and then you have to direct it somewhere, which is the self side. So self-attack is a brilliant, very precognitive strategy that doesn't do anything because it's on top of a freeze. So the motoring is mental, it is not physical. And that's why it's so hard to unwrap it. But I know how to do that, and I'm happy to help you. And be sure to sign up in the link in my bio for my free webinar, because we're going to look at intention and attention. That's a balance. Yeah, you can feel it's on top of a freeze. So the first step is thaw out the freeze. Suspend the motoring in the mental body and heat up that little freeze under there. Get some motoring, get some, proprioception, press against the wall. Slow yourself down and heat up that freeze a bit. So now let's stretch our armpits. People are used to stretching their muscles, but when I say stretch your armpits, I really mean use your lymphatic system. Ignore the attack thoughts. Don't even bother letting go of them. You could let go of them if you're grasping them, but you ignore the attack thoughts. Yeah. And now stretch your armpits. And if you can, have the same idea, stretch your groin, your leg pits, because those big lymph channels to the limbs go through the armpits. There's a lot of lymph nodes where the arms meet the core, the torso. And there's a lot of lymph nodes where the legs meet the torso. Yep, go to the physical exercise. Here we go. Going to the physical exercise in order to know we exist. Wouldn't you love your best year ever? And to have at your fingertips how you interrupt your own debilitating process. Either the heaviness of depression or the hopelessness of being trapped in a family that was abusive, or the fear that if you succeed, you'll fail. Put a 5 in the comment if you have a fear of success thinking. That's a little different than self-attack, but it's very, very real. That, it could get so good, then you're afraid what would happen. This kind of fear often happens when there's been a big loss. Oh, I see your 5. Yeah, fear of success. And in that process, when there's been a big loss, either culturally, like horrible things like the Holocaust, or like in Argentina, there was some just, in the Philippines, lots in the Vietnam, lots of horrible conflicts and oppression of the people. And so there can be a cultural fear of success. I don't know if you ever saw the beautiful movie where all the classical musicians were having to hide their instruments in China because Mao wanted to burn all the Western things, including these beautiful cellos and basses, and it was just tragic. The arts were getting beaten down. But that kind of oppression can be cultural. So we want to interrupt cultural oppression. And then we want to look at family, because if we have fear of success, maybe our family lost a lot of money, or maybe they had status and it went away. Or maybe every time they just started to get out of the gutter, the waves would come crashing down. I had a big incident in my family where all of a sudden my mom ended up with a mortgage at age 70. She had paid off her house, and my stepdad went in and they borrowed money to fix the roof. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, that money disappeared because he paid off business debts we didn't know he had. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. My mom was furious, and she was liable. Now she had a mortgage. So instead of being able to go visit her grandchildren, she had to work. She had to go back to work at age 70. Can you imagine? So you want to pay attention to your world and your finances and not put yourself at risk to ancestral conditioning, to family conditioning, to internal conditioning, which could have happened based on a difficult birth, infant surgery, postpartum depression. There's all kinds of filters that happen in the body-mind. This is my specialty. I can help you with this. And so come join me on my, free 3 days in a row, because I'd love you to have your best year ever. But it takes some work.